This is the channel for working parents that will help you have less chaos in your family, more energy, and time to do the things that you want, to discuss narratives and new ideas for a more fulfilled family life. I don't tell you how to raise your kids. I show you what highly successful people do to stay on track, but without the entourage and all the help that they have. And the reason why I can show you how to do this is because I've done it in my real life world as a single mother. I created the Indestructible Working Parent Framework to show you how to thrive at home and how to excel at work. My name is Bina Ray. I have a PA business diploma. I was born in the UK and one of my parents is German, and German was my first language when I was born. And I also spent 20 years in Germany where I learnt discipline and such a high work ethic from my mum's friend who I lived with for a year when I moved out there. I've never seen people work so efficiently and respect time as much as I did when I was living in Germany. She taught me everything that I needed to know about how to present myself, how to dress for success, how to set boundaries, how to be respected at work and taken seriously. And I was very grateful to her for that. It really gave me a head start in my career in Germany. I was only 21 when I went over, so still very young. But what she gave me to start my career in Germany as a private personal assistant was really invaluable. It wasn't a time where people understood if you were going through something, or they had a lot of empathy or sympathy for what you were going through. We were told in those days to just get on with it. It looks very different today. However, I feel like the more composure that you can have at work without mixing too much of your private life, the more seriously people take you. But that's just my personal opinion. I know that there are people nowadays who see things a lot differently in the working world. And this channel is also an opportunity to open up for discussion. So we're not setting a narrative that this is how you have to do things, or that this is how I see things, in order for people to have a really smooth running, less chaotic family life. And we're not talking about perfection here. Perfection is not the aim. It will never happen. If you think that I'm going to show you how to make everything perfect like a PA does, it's not happening on this channel. This is not the right place for you. This is a place for people to understand each other and to understand that everyone is different. Individuals are different. We all have different needs. But the structure of family life is very similar to a business. And the more structured you are with your team, which is what you have at home and at work, and the more you use your professional training to keep things in line at home, and we're not talking about military either, we're talking about control at home, the easier it's going to be for you, especially when you return to work. In 2006 to 2009, I had 2 daughters and I became single during my second pregnancy. And that was a time where I really understood what it was like to be left alone with 2 children and how chaotic things can get if you're not in control. And that was even for an experienced person like me. I mean, I have been supporting C-suite executives for over 25 years, making sure that they arrive on time, making sure that their travel, their complex diaries are all lined up so that nothing goes wrong, making sure all the paperwork is done, making sure that their business, their department, their teams are motivated and are working in collaboration with each other. So even for someone like me, having a family completely threw me off the chart, off the line, off the whole disciplines. And that easily happens, especially when there's so much emotion involved in a separation, never mind staying together and creating human beings and being responsible for them. So in 2012, I returned to work and I burnt out within 1 year because everybody was in the right place at the right time, beautifully organized. But there was one person that I forgot in the whole mix of this, and that was myself. So in 2014, I started my journey on finding out how I can function as the best human being, how my body works, how I'm supposed to sleep, how I'm supposed to eat, how I'm supposed to take care of myself, because we all know that if you're sick, you only have one problem, and that is your illness. You cannot go to work, earn money, take care of your kids, cook, clean, do anything if you're sick. And that really brought it home to me. I was lying on the floor, paralyzed with exhaustion. I couldn't move. I was just so tired. The doctor gave me about 2 weeks to recover. My boss was the first person who noticed. He said, "I don't know what's going on with you, but something's not quite right. So go home, fix it, and don't come back until you're feeling better." I had a fantastic boss during that time. So I took that time, but during that time, my kids were sick. They were up with that awful cough, keeping me up at night time. So there wasn't really a recovery time during those 2 weeks. But it really made me realize that looking after myself, it's a bit like the aeroplane situation, when the masks come down, put your oxygen mask on first and then help others. It really brought home to me how important that was, and that being selfish is actually a good thing, especially when you have family, and that taking care of yourself when you have people who are relying on you and dependent on you, looking up to you, mirroring you, watching what you're doing every single day and using that as an example. It brought it home to me how important it was to look after myself. So I spent 10 years, it's probably more 15 now because my girls are teenagers now. So I've been documenting this recovery journey for a really long time. And it's not something that you just do in a year or two, because your kids are constantly growing. So, and you have to grow with that, and your routines have to grow with that. Your business structure is changing all the time. So I documented my journey. I took the success habits of the 1% that I was working with and adapted them to a working parent life. I used my skills built on my 25 years experience, and put that in the mix of how I helped others become successful, but made it more for real life, everyday people like you and me doing a 9 to 5 job, and make sure that my life was just more than just coming home, taking my jacket off, going straight to the kitchen, rushing to get the kids to bed so that I could finally have 5 minutes. But unfortunately, I didn't use those minutes for myself. I used them for thousands of other things, but we'll go into that more later. Another reason why I decided to create the Indestructible Working Parent Framework is because I did wake up one morning and I thought to myself, is this it? You hear people saying all the time, that's just what it's like with kids. But I wasn't buying into that story. I didn't want to be the parent who drowned her sorrows in a glass of wine every single night and said, this is just how it's going to be like for the next 20 years or more, depending on how many children you have. I refused to think that I'm just going to be exhausted and running around like mad for the next 20 years with feeling the way that I did, just empty, trying to work out 1,000 personal things. What happened in my marriage? How did I end up this way? Broke, back in the UK, living in a flat, and just working every single day just to make money to survive. And I thought, this can't be it. There has to be more. And there was. It was a journey for me and my children, and they learnt along the way. And I wish I would have known so much more and applied so much more during that time. But now I'm here to give it to you so that you can avoid the burnout. So if you have school children, you're returning to work, and you want to avoid that chaos, then this is the place for you. This is where I'm going to show you what I did and how it worked. And obviously you can tweak this framework to suit your family life. But most 9 to 5 people who have a morning routine and an evening routine will find the framework of this very useful for the family life. Now, I will say that if you work nights, I don't have experience with that. So this probably isn't the right place for you. You might be able to get some tips, but human beings aren't nocturnal. And we're not supposed to work at night time. So how you juggle that with children is not something that I'm experienced in. So this isn't probably the right place. So one of the things that I realized whilst I was bringing up my children is that I was trying to use single life habits, single life wants and beliefs and adapt them to a modern working world. And obviously that isn't working. You can't bring your children up like your grandparents or your parents did with the attitude, well, they all grow up in the end, if you want a modern lifestyle. And a modern lifestyle means if you are 2 working parents or a single working parent, you need a family structure or things are just going to get out of hand. So governments and companies are offering more flexibility. But why is that not working? Because 46% of working parents are concerned about their children's mental health, costing UK employers $8 billion annually due to impact on performance whilst they're at work, taking time off or leaving their roles. And that is a report from the Deloitte press in May 2024. So I would say that's a fairly recent report. So why are we still having 46% of working parents thinking this way if we've got all of the support from the government and the companies? We've got hybrid working. We've got the flexibility for sports days and nativity plays and sick days. If your child is sick, you can stay at home. But it's not working because we're still exhausted. We're still thinking about leaving our jobs. And if you want to see more data on that, I have a website, beanarray.com, where there are more statistics from Deloitte and other reputable sources where you can see even reports up until 2025 that parents are still not working effectively, and it's costing companies billions, even though they've got all of these well-being platforms, and I've seen some of them. They are so diverse and varied and detailed and considerate, but there's still something missing. That's because burnout doesn't happen at work, it happens at home. Most people are exhausted by the time they reach the workplace or sit in front of their computer. Because giving working parents more flexibility with their time, more support with childcare costs, doesn't guarantee high performance and productivity. It just adds more performance pressure. Nobody gave us the back to work handbook as fresh parents now juggling 2 different lives. You know, when you were single, you came home and you could go to the fridge, grab a beer, sit down, switch the TV off. But now you've got your partner. You've got maybe 1, 2, 3 children waiting for you to take care of them. So there isn't that me time anymore straight after work. We're trying to mix the single life wants and the new world equal opportunities to run our new concept. It's not working because the answer to less stress and more time isn't in your employer's hands or the government's, it's in yours. The outside world is doing what it can, and maybe it needs to do more, but we can't solely rely on that. Support is good, independence is better. And the more control we have on both ends of our day, the more fulfilled our family life and individual life could be. So if you're done with winging it and the arguments of who's doing what at what time and who's coming home when and who's got this duty and that duty, and generally being exhausted after every day, and remember, we are talking about the next 15 to 20 years. That's with one child. If you've got more than one child, you've got to last a little bit longer than that, then this channel is for you. And like I said at the beginning, we're not striving for perfection. We are looking for an ideal way to keep things on course, like you do when you're at work, keeping things in line and making sure that systems at home are working in a way that leaves you less frazzled. It will never be perfect, but it will be better. And always remember to live intelligently.